A little later than planned, cars are about to hit the circuit at Hockenheim for GT4 European Series Qualifying 1. A welcome addition to the calendar is Hockenheim, and now that the rain has stopped, the sun has broken through, the road is drying, teams really optimistic about a quicker qualifying session. And then an errant Clio deposited a sump full of oil, and as you can see, it stretches really the majority of the circuit. We've lost half an hour while the marshals have been treating the liquid that's been put down. It means that it's going to be a fairly tentative start to the session, I would have thought, but it's going to be a busy road nonetheless. 43 cars ready to go for this GT4 qualifying session, and of course we're getting towards the pointy end of the season now, with just one event after Hockenheim. We've got Barcelona to come, which will resolve the championship, and championships, plural they are, with Silver, Pro-Am and Am. So first of all, we need to think about two different grids, because what we're about to have in Q1 is the Race 1 grid. In Q2, it will be the Race 2 grid. One driver, one session. David Addison and Ben Constanduris are trackside, and it's quite a track surface now, because a bit of it's dry, Ben, a bit of it's wet, a bit of it's oily.
Yeah, it's drier, isn't it? Obviously, then we've experienced huge rainfall this morning. Really, really wet conditions for the practice session for our GT3 competitors. It is a real challenge. I think if you are a pro driver, it is slick tyre territory, but you cannot venture offline, because there really is just one ribbon.
Now, as far as Pro-Am in the championship is concerned, it is Jean-Luc Bobelic and Jim Pla ahead of Alex Fontana and Ivan Jacoma. Greg Gilvan and Fabien Michel third. They've been a bit surprising, really, on the basis that they've had far fewer wins this year than they normally have. But Pro-Am, as ever, has been hugely competitive. And again, it's one of the great things about this championship. The entry, the quality thereof is very, very impressive indeed. And it just gets stronger and stronger, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and it's fascinating to see how those cars stack up when they're out on circuit across a weekend, because of course one driver is very different in performance to the other driver. Here is the Silver Cup category with Enzo Juliet and Luc Ibanez leading that category.
And they've been sort of late developers, haven't they? I mean, yes, they have been race winners, but they didn't look all that sparkling at the start of the season. But they have got on with the job, and they've started winning, and generally have put together a really good championship campaign. And as far as the AM competition is concerned, it is the dad and lad Ricci's, Amaro and Benjamin Ricci, that hold sway there. I don't think we're going to see anything wrapped up this weekend, but you might see one or two drivers start to assert themselves in the championship. Now, the session is live. The cars are venturing out onto the circuit, and now we can start to piece together the first grid of the weekend, and also drivers can go and explore where the grip levels are. We were chatting off mic a moment ago about World Rallycross having been to Hockenheim, and it looks a bit Rallycrossy now, doesn't it, with the dusty line that you've got from the sand put down to soak up the oil. This the fastest part of the circuit on the way up through the Parabolica towards the Spitzkehre. But ideally for this, you want to keep out of trouble and almost sit in the pit lane until the end, I would have thought. If you're really confident after free practice yesterday, you can let everybody else go out and clear the circuit, and then you just bang in a good lap at the end.
Because you're not going to be overtaking, and if you do overtake and get onto the wet stuff, you'll lose temperature in your tyres. I mean, it is a right mess of a circuit now with the dry dust out there that has obviously soaked up not only the oil but some of the moisture on the circuit. So it's not going to be creating clouds of dust, I don't think. It's more going to be a bit of a mud on the circuit for the most of our session. Drivers are having to cross that. It's not sure what tyres they have got on. I certainly...
Rally tyres, yeah.
Yes, they might be the most appropriate.
I would have thought if you were an AM, it was probably worth a thought about wet. But the more I look at the track surface, I think it's too dry, actually. You destroy them very quickly. So go slicks and get them working quickly. Yesterday in the free practice sessions, the better time was done by Alex Fontana in the first session, a 1:46.6. I don't think we're going to rival that, but it's there as a benchmark.
The movement of the 69 car down that start, finishing straight, dipping into the wet conditions and then back onto the dry would suggest that they've gone wet tyres.
Okay.
To try and have suddenly realised that those wet tyres may quickly overheat with such dry tarmac, and therefore are trying to cool them down by moving over onto that wet surface. That would what looks to be the case from the movement of that car. There's no other reason why on the main straight you would dip into the wet conditions. Let's have a look around the back of the circuit with Christophe Amont. Yeah, he's staying to the outside, actually following the oil line. He has got wet tyres on, and he's trying to get those as cool as possible. May well be that they need to come into the pits and change those. Are they even permitted to do so? Once you come into the pits, do you not have to then stay?
I thought you could change
You
tyres.
can, okay, yeah.
But you're eating into the session, aren't you?
And not a lot of time to do so. It's just 17 minutes. There is one car that hasn't come out onto the circuit yet from our commentary position. And it does look like the rest of the field is out there. No work going on that particular car, and annoyingly, the gantry is just in the wrong place.
I think it is the Paul Aurel Koenig Ruben Del Sart Mirage Racing Aston.
Yep.
Because that's the one I can't account for as yet on the timing screen.
And we do have cars coming directly into pit lane, so it does feel as though perhaps those that have gone with the wet tyres may feel like it is dry tyres now. We follow Christophe Amont, who's always one of the strongest in that category. Always finds himself pretty high up the order when it comes to qualifying. Oh yes, also outside of that last turn. Do you remember the last time Formula One were here and they got onto that drag strip area? Incredibly slippery.
Yes.
Especially when mixed with water. So you don't want to be running wide there. Lots of opportunities to run wide, lots of opportunities to have track limits infringements, so need to be careful to stay on the circuit. But in these sunny conditions, you need to just stay on the racing line, and that's it alone.
So a big slide from Christophe Amont there, who accelerates his way into turn 2, the Bernie Eccleston corner. In terms of wins this year, because there's been a reasonable spread across the classes, in Pro-Am you've had 6 different winners out of the races held thus far. You've got 2 wins to Jim Pla, Jean-Luc Bobely, 1 to Alex Fontana and Ivan Jacoba, 1 to Greg Gilbert and Fabien Michel, 1 to Kenny Heremans and Dante Raponge, 2 to Loic Villiger and Antoine Leclerc, and 1 to Andreas Mael and Vincent Andronico. In Am, 2 wins to the Reaches, 2 to Julien Lambert, Wilfried Cazelban, and a host of singleton winners. And in Silver, 2 at the start of the year at Imola to Konstantin Lachenauer and Gus Bowers, 2 to Mike Ortman and Hugo Sasser, 2 to Enzo Juliet and Luc Ibanieff, 1 to Romain Monti and Antoine Potti, and 1 to Erwin Bastard and Rui Meerhas. So although many of the same names crop up there, there has been across all the classes a real spread this year. Yellow flag is out in Sector 1. Somebody's had a drama then within the first part of the lap, probably down at Turn 1.
It says Turn 2, and that's Andronico, so that's the number 22 Porsche.
And there's a car, we can see Turn 2 out of our window.
Oh, yes.
And right across the gravel is a car that's cleared the gravel and is up against the tyres and is right up against the barrier. And he's going to have to pay to get back in from there. So
that's a very unusual place to end up.
I suspect it's even behind our cameraman in terms of he won't have the range to find the car, but it's way off the racetrack. So Jim Pla is the fastest.
And was that Porsche not a Porsche that had a very similar situation in qualifying in Spa?
It was destroyed by Andreas Mael, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
There's the yellow flag, or the yellow light flashing, but the car is way out of range of our camera, I'm afraid, up there. So we're going to struggle to find it. Trust me, there's a car right at the outside of Turn 2, but the race director, Steve Burns, eager that the session continues. The car of Paul Aurel Koenig is now out on track, so I think we are, with our full complement of cars, 43 in total have ventured out, and 87 Jim Pla is the fastest on a 1:56.575, so a long way off what they were doing yesterday in the bone dry, really hot conditions yesterday.
Plenty of cars coming into the pits, a few now heading back out again after a change of tyres. I was watching the AGS Events number 7 machine that has a very different livery to what we were experiencing from that machine. Wasn't that the car that Hugo Conte was driving earlier in the year? But now isn't. Nicolas Gaumard is now part of that squad. And they've been sitting in the pits since the start of the session, changed the tyres and now heading back out. So that's one car to watch in terms of pace if those slick tyres work in these situations. We don't actually know if there are other cars out there with slick tyres. My suggestion would be that the Hofer Racing by Bonk Motorsport, Michael Schreier, local car, championship winner in GT4 Germany, perhaps does, because he's 1.6 clear of the rest of the field.
Could be right. Now that's Vincent Andronico proving the benefits of reverse gear and your little camera, so you know exactly where you're reversing to. And he's got the car on that emergency access road, out of harm's way, so the green flag is showing again at turn 2, and Andronico now is trying to get into the session. I think he had actually done a lap time before he fell off, so he's 14th fastest. But the car, as you see, is a different livery than it was before it got mild at Spa. Jim Pla is the fastest, as there, you look at him, number 80, sorry, he's not the fastest anymore, he's down to 4th, because Hendrik Still in number 38 Porsche goes quickest, then Michael Schreier, then Michael Laboda, and then Jim Pla 4th fastest, second in Pro-Am. But he might be going quicker by the end of the lap, because he's done 2 personals, but then with traffic in the way, comes down the pit lane. It's like being at a single venue rally with all the muck on the road, isn't it? It just looks like a really dirty racetrack.
There is that number, oh no, that's a teammate to the number 7 machine, all in green. The 7 is all same livery, but in yellow. Tom Verdier in the silver Aston Martin. AGS Events had a horrible Spa, if you remember. Spent most of the cars, spent most of the sessions in the paddock area or in the pits. Didn't really get a decent result. But Aston Martin has really been the car to have this year in terms of brands, with so much success, at least in the early part of the year.
And this is the car that's fastest, Hendrik Still. This is a car in strife. It is the Alpine number 55, which is the Jean-Baptiste Mehler Autosport GP car. That parks to the side of the road.
Front suspension's collapsed on that.
I think you're right, it is.
One thing you can do quite easily around here, if you turn in too early, there are little sausages to catch. And if you hit those at the wrong angle, then your suspension arms and the bolts that attach them to the various bits of the car will easily snap. How dirty. Dirty. They've not done a 24-hour race already.
I know, they've not even done half the session. So it is, with the amount of sand, cement dust put down to soak up the oil, a really scrofulous racetrack. Hendrik Still, we were looking at when he was going slowly. He is still quickest, as in Hendrik Still is quickest. Yes, this won't be an improvement, but it could be for Antoine Leclerc, who in the little Alpine blasts now through turn 7, flashing the lights to warn the traffic of his progress. Avoids as much of the muck as he can. But he's lost his absolute best in the first sector, because that's now been snaffled from him by Michael Laboda with his Porsche Cayman. Yeah,
this is going to be one of those sessions that just continues to get better and better, isn't it? Even if you're on wet tyres, you're still going to find a better track lap after lap. The track is going to be drying. The drivers are going to find more and more grip, and those that are going onto slick tyres are going to find more and more temperature in those slick tyres. So basically what is happening now doesn't really matter. We need to just kind of wait 5 minutes, and then we can start calling the times, because it's just going to change all the way through.
No, you're right. Whoever's last across the line has a chance of being the fastest. Theo Nue is currently the quickest, but Antoine Leclerc, where are we going to put him then, as he comes now up towards the timing line, goes through, breaks the beam, 5th fastest.
So Jean-Baptiste Mehler stopped at turn 2, which suggests the chicane, the turn 1 sausage on the inside there was the doing of the suspension. You can hit them and you can use them if you are in certain cars, but you need to be very, very careful how you clout that inside curb.
Sorry, so you're suggesting he hit it at turn 1, did you say?
Yes.
Right, hit the sausage at the first corner, just checking. Sausage joke. To the timing line now comes Michael Laboda, who goes through, and number 37 goes second fastest then, and he's instantly battered by Beke Besler's BMW, the Turkish driver in the Borusan Automotive M4. So it is 0.4 of a second between Theo Nue, the very quick now Mercedes driver, formerly Aston Martin driver, and Beke Besler. Hugo Sassa 4th. That's the quickest car then, the Drago Racing Team Mercedes AMG GT4. I'll tell you one thing that is another major factor of this, as now Hendrik Still goes back to the top of the times. Finding a clear lap is one line possible, because there is so much traffic out there. The road is getting drier. You wouldn't think, looking at it now, that it was horrendously wet first thing, and Nue goes off the road, scrabbles for grip, gets back onto it, but the commitment is there, but the grip wasn't. So Nue over the line, and he stays second. That lap was still an improvement, but that's as much the road drying as his zealotry.
Yeah, we're now in a position where we're looking at times which are slick tyre times, but just with a circuit that is not up to the same kind of level that it was yesterday. Yesterday we were in the 46 and 47s. We're now in the 49s. Earlier on in the 52s, we were definitely in wet tyre territory. But I think now the idea would be to get onto slicks and get times in as much as possible. The field spread is absolutely mammoth at the moment because
it is.
Yeah, we've got 35 cars within 10 seconds of each other.
Well, Hendrik still remains at the top of the times. He's fought back. He's 0.2 of a second up on Benjamin Lariche in number 38. Remember, he led at Spa, then had a mechanical problem that stopped him. He's the quicker of the two out of him and Max Kronberg, who is his co-driver. But Hendrik still is another of these very versatile drivers that perhaps doesn't really get the recognition he deserves. Whatever you put him in, Hendrik still is quick. Whether it's in GT4 or the VLN equivalent these days, whether it's in the 24-hour series, whether it was in Lamborghini Super Trofeo a good few years ago in the Pro-Am class. Hendrik still then up towards the timing line. He's dropped to second behind his teammate, Mikhail Loboda, but he should be able to fight back here with a personal and an absolute best. Can he go better than a 48.908? The answer is, yep, 48.661. Hendrik still back to the top.
And it was a Porsche that was fastest in our first free practice session yesterday. So we talked about Aston Martin being the car to have in the early part of the season. It does look as though those Porsches are coming on strong, and that's good news for the 718 Giacomo and Fontana car, because they are in championship fight and they do need a circuit to be good to them.
Absolutely right. Now this is Michael Schrei heading up towards the timing line. That's the Alex Fontana, Ivan Giacomo Porsche that he negotiates and goes second fastest now. Michael Schrei, 148.694, 33 thousandths shy of pole position.
With a bit of traffic as well. He was slightly compromised there. And I think 718 down now in 17th position, trying to kind of block. He doesn't really want the Toyota ahead of him down this big long straight. Fancies the slipstream of the BMW instead.
Vincent Andronico's Porsche that we saw reversing out of harm's way has not, as far as I can work out, rejoined, whether that's because of damage or it's not been allowed to. So he is tumbling. He's just dropped now to 35th. And he's stymied by the fact that everybody else is going quicker on a drying road and he can't retaliate. So Hendrik still, absolute best, absolute best. This could be the perfect lap. All the cherries are aligning here, aren't they? All the purple sectors coming together.
Yes, but you just got to keep banging them out, because the circuit's going to get better and better. They're nowhere near the kind of pace that you would ultimately get out of a completely dry track. It's certainly, you know, with the cars going over, it's a lot drier than it was even when we started this session. And everybody else is doing the same thing and improving. We haven't seen the number 4 Nue that was up there improve for the last couple of laps, potentially because of traffic. But there's so many of these cars that are, once they're up to speed, can be a real threat.
Well, this is Michael Schrei in number 2 BMW, still pressing on. He has now dropped to 5th, now make that 6th, because Etienne Kelly has just gone 2nd. I was about to tell you that Adam Carroll was well placed in the McLaren, operated by Greystone GT, the car that he shares with Tim Whale. Michael Schrei goes through 5th fastest now.
Yeah, improvement from Teo Nue, but also from Luca Bagnes, who's gone on to pole position as well by 0.02 of a second. So improvements from everybody, whether it's Hendrik Still, who's been consistently up there in the top couple of rows, or from a bit further back, best middle sector of anybody, Roy Meerhouse, who at the moment is down in 21st position.
Absolutely right. And Etienne Shelley has done an absolute best in the first sector. So here, Hendrik Still, 3rd fastest now, and not doing purples anymore. So that was a personal best, but not an absolute. Etienne Shelley in the Toyota. Number 8 is the driver that's quicker than anybody now in the first sector. Etienne Shelley sharing with Corentin Souron. We've not really seen that car regularly at the pointy end, but Hendrik Still way out over the curb. You can see the cement dust is gradually being whittled away, so the road is getting drier, certainly. It's getting a bit cleaner, a bit. But it's still a challenge for them as the sun breaks through and the temperatures are going up as well.
Yeah, everything pointing to the end of the session being the best track conditions and Q2 being faster than Q1. And in theory, the rest of the weekend set fair. Race 1 is in the afternoon for these GT4 guys, and then lunchtime tomorrow is where we will see race 2, and we are expecting nice conditions. So really, a very strange, heavy shower this morning that interfered with our morning schedule. But after that, we're looking good.
Yeah, the mid-jets that were first out at 9 o'clock for a race really comped for it, but the road is quicker all the time. Hendrick still back to the top, 1:47.393. Here is Etienne Shelley, second fastest, 0.144 of a second back. Third now is the Chevrolet Camaro of Dante Rapponge. No, it's not, because now Luc Ibaniev goes second and pushes the Supra that you're looking at there in the middle of these three down to second in the times, down to third in the times.
More traffic to contend with, so track conditions might be improving, but you've got to get your car in the right part of the circuit with a bit of space around you to really maximise it. Weisskirchen late out onto the circuit, didn't have a time for the 44 car for the first 10 minutes of the session, but now starting to find pace, best sector of anybody through the first, and right on pace in the second as well.
Moritz Weisskirchen is hustling on, as you can see, with an absolute best and a personal best. Bounces over the curb, nice low curbs. Superbike racing comes here later in September, the German Championship, so like many circuits, of course, the curbs have to cater for bikes as well as cars. Weisskirchen was 13th at the start of the lap. By the end of it, he could be up on the front row, goes over the timing line, second fastest, 1:47.399. So it's a Porsche 1-2, but 7:18 that you were talking about, Ben. Alex Fontana, who we know is quick, he's only 27th, he's having a bit of a mare.
Saw him in traffic though, didn't we? And he was trying to defend from one of the Toyotas, which is not really what you want to be doing in qualifying. You just want to be focusing forwards and have your own space as well to play with.
Now here into the stadium, the Motordrome, is Benjamin Lariche in number 3 Audi, the team speed car entry, and he's 5th fastest, the best of the Audis. So Hendrick still is quickest, he leads Pro-Am. Second fastest is 37, Michael Laboda, he leads Am. And Moritz Weisskirchen is currently 3rd, and he's the best of the silvers. We don't have a pro, but silver is your equivalent, if you like. That's a higher graded class. And the flag is imminent as well. We've rattled through 20 minutes because there's just a lap left for Lariche, but the flag, as he goes quickest, Benjamin Lariche, 1:47.175. The flag is out now.
And he will be one of the last cars to go over the line in a lap's time as well. So he is best placed. Little Alpine just behind him, better placed. But now with the flag out for the rest of the field, Lariche could be in the box seat here for pole position. Has already lost 6 positions, down to 6 spots since we called it. But everybody else coming over the line now on their last lap.
But there's a yellow at the last corner because we've got a car that has gone straight on at turn 15 and is up against the tyres. So you can see there the green flag in the background saying this is clear. There's the car in question, and it is number 10 that has gone straight on, Konstantin Lachenau, the double winner at Imola at the start of the season. And that is a very odd looking incident, as though something has broken there.
You ride those 2 curbs on the way to that corner. There's a one on the left, one on the right, both with little sausages on the inside. We saw the Porsche straight line it. Has there been a little failure? Because as you say, certainly shouldn't be ending up in that part of the barrier. Difficult one for race control, because ultimately you shouldn't be improving through that yellow flagged sector.
Well, there is Hendrick Still, who is the fastest. He has gone on to pole, and Benjamin Lariche has ended up 6th. So the argument is the road is drier, it's quicker. So yes, let's see what pans out of it. But anyway, Hendrick Still, no, not the fastest. Etienne Shelley in the Supra, fastest now, 1:47.136. So Etienne Shelley, number 8. Then Luc Ibaniev, number 15 Mercedes. It might be that there's a little bit of post-session unravelling to do with some of this, but as the cars come pouring over the line, Etienne Shelley it is that is provisionally the fastest. Benjamin Lariche, though, breaks the beam, back to the top, 1:47.103. And he was down in the last sector, so that's fair enough.
Crucially was slower in the final sector. Everybody else is improving in the final sector, the ones that you were calling just then.
Yeah.
Etienne Shelley, best of his sector that he's been through that last sector. But very much clear on the timing screens that Lariche's last sector was a white number and therefore slower than he'd previously been through there. So perhaps a legitimate pole position. And as we said, as you said, last car over the line will have the best of the track conditions, and that was basically Benjamin Lariche. There was an Alpine behind, but doesn't look like the Alpine's the car to have, because the Alpine logo only appears first in 29th position today.
So let's have a look at the times at the end of the session then, with the fastest being the Audi of Benjamin Lariche from Team Speedcar, and second fastest being the Toyota Supra of Etienne Shelley, the CMR operated entry. Luc Ibanez's Mercedes third, ahead of Hendrik Still and then Michael Loboda, both in Porsches, and another Porsche sixth, Moritz Visserkirchen. Next comes Theo Nue, ahead of Tom Canning's Aston Martin, then the Chevrolet of Dante Rapponge, and prior to his off, Konstantin Lachnau, whose car is being retrieved, but he made it to 10th, ahead of Hugo Sassa, then Ralph Kalleners, and only 13th, Jim Pla, which is a bit of a surprise, given that he was quick early on. Michael Schrei, 14th, ahead of Stanislav Safronov, and then 16th fastest was Rui Miojas, who again, a long way back in the Audi. Next up, 17th quickest, Alex Fontana, also way down the order. 18th fastest, Adam Carroll in the McLaren, ahead of Nico Verdonk and Antoine Potty, both of whom, Julien Brichet, another you would expect to be further up the order. Nico Hanke, new to the series with Will Tregertha, good to have him in the championship, the British driver. They come next, and we'll see Will Tregertha in the car next in Q2. Christophe Amon finishing behind them a long way back. Greg Gilbert only 27th as well. And as you look at the last of the times, 43rd, Henrik Pedersen. But Vincent Andronico, 42nd after his early indiscretion, and he is going to be a man to watch come the race.
Yeah, Jean-Baptiste Meller, 41st with its damage. We probably won't see that car in the second session. How much damage was done to the 22, and is there the possibility of fixing it and at least getting Andreas Meyer into that car for the second session? Presumably also a problem for the 18 Aston Martin at the tail end of the field, because they didn't get any dry running. So a question mark over the Team Spirit Racing. Aston 2:09 was the time that they managed, obviously in wet conditions. They did do 5 laps. There was no report of them in a barrier anywhere.
Henrik Pedersen, not always the fastest, but one to keep an eye to maybe. And let's look at the highlights then of Q1. The JSB Competition Mercedes AMG of Julien Brichet out, as also a quick Mercedes equivalent was that of Theo Nue, but Michael Loboda was hustling along in number 37 Porsche Cayman, and so too teammate Hendrik Still, who put himself at the top of the times as the road dried and became cleaner and quicker. And although others went faster, Hendrik Still seemed to have a response and was able to fight back. Then Luc Ibanez got in on the act, number 15 Mercedes. That car putting itself up towards the top of the times. Etienne Shelley for CMR in the Supra managed to find a bit of tarmac that gave him some grip, and the Supra boomed its way through the traffic, monstering the back of the Codis ASP Pascal Gibon driven Mercedes AMG. But Benjamin Lariche turned up the wick late session and was the best of the Audi drivers, as the Burger King back driver got his teeth into the last couple of laps and did 2 pole position laps back to back. So it was a royale of a session or something for the Burger King backed Audi. Benjamin Lariche the fastest, and we'll see what happens now in Q2. So reset. These are the times that will determine the grid for the second race. What we've just seen is an isolated grid. Konstantin Lachnau's car retrieved, Gus Bauer's installed behind the wheel, and we'll go live in 1 minute, Ben.
20 degrees out there now. It certainly wasn't 20 degrees when we walked into the circuit this morning.
Good effort by Lariche, though, that. Timed it right, and also did the sectors properly. So he backed off under a yellow flag that we had at the very end, but did a good job. And they're very keen to get out is the Audi of Santalok, which is now going to be Irvin Bastar at the wheel of it. So that's to see whether it can emulate the sort of pace that Lariche was doing with his Audi.
And they are the closest challenger, aren't they, to the Codis ASP team, which could, I think, depending on where Bastar finishes, could wrap up that Pro-Am Championship this weekend. Such is the advantage. 41 points the advantage. But very much obviously depends on the challengers. There's a bit of a gap. We've got really close championships in both the AM and the Silver. Pro-Am is a little bit more spread.
Yeah, Pro-Am is Jean-Luc Bobelic and Jim Pla, isn't it? Ahead of Fontana and Jacoma. And it's about 30 points between them. Right, we are live. The green flag is waved.
was 19, 53 and 110. Q1 lap time under investigation, improving the yellow flags.
The voice you just heard is the race director, Steve Burns, also one of the stewards for the Fanatec GT Esports Pro Series that runs this evening. But as you were hearing, drivers being looked at for improving lap times with improvements in the sector in which there was a yellow flag. And really, in this day and age, not only with marshals, but also with GPS on cars, with sector times, with the facilities that Swiss Timing, the timekeeping service, provides, you've nowhere to hide, really. You've got to have a really good argument to explain why you went quicker under a yellow.
Yeah, and lifting off isn't necessarily going to allow you to... Yes, you could lift off and still get a better lap time, in theory. But you really do... You need the time screens to be compliant with you and to actually get a slower sector, rather than just saying, look, I lifted off. I still went faster, but I lifted off.
Right, 18 minutes already. Yes, they do have quite a bit of track time on day one of the event, where it's free practice times 2. But in terms of qualifying, well, you only need really 2 quick runs, don't you? So 1 lap to get your tyres up to temperature, maybe 2 flyers and then an in. And if you want a second set of boots, then you can go again. Pirelli tyres, of course, they run on. And many of them timing this so they come out later.
Yeah, because the track is only going to get better and better. So not necessarily the need, like we saw in the first session, no one is going to go out on wet tyres. There's no need for that. So we had that kind of exploration in the first session, whereas now they know that there's no wet tyre running. And they know that there's no point trying to get an early lap time in, because the track is going to get better. So really, waiting for the second half of the session, this plays into the hands, in theory, of these early runners to get some clear track, but they also will be eclipsed.
So Enzo Gillier takes over from Luc Ibanez. There he is, number 15 Mercedes then. In terms of the championship, in terms of silver, which is one of the championship fights, of course, these are the leaders, ahead of Rui Meerhaus and Erwin Bastard, who in turn are just 1 point up from Konstantin Lachner and Gas Bowers. So Enzo Gillier, with a relatively clear road around him at the moment, comes then now into turn 8. Then you've got that little kink at 9, and then a proper left at 10. And back onto the power. Enzo Gillier then sprints down towards the approach to the stadium. Now, we were talking in GT3 terms about, yes, this is a new venue, but then certainly for GT3, you start to pick out people that have raced here quite a lot in the DTM and or the German GT Championship. It's not quite the same for GT4, but there is these days the ADAC's GT4 trophy, and I suppose quite a few will also have experience in this entry list from coming here in the 24-hour series, but probably not a vast number will have raced here before.
And a very different type of racing. If you've got that 24H experience, multi-class racing, generally not so many cars in the same category.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And so you're cruising around doing an hour and a half stint. This is, whilst we call this endurance racing, these are 2 30-minute sprints bolted onto each other, aren't they, really? Yeah.
And Enzo Gillier, the quicker of those that have set a time, from Loic Villiger, who has done a 1 minute 49.019. Erwin Bastard next, 1:49.6. But the Mercedes looking really, really strong here. Enzo Gillier accelerating up towards the Spitzkehrer.
Definitely a slow burner, this session. We've now got all of our, well, top 30 cars have been put on circuit. There is still a few in pit lane, including the number 2 machine of Hoffa Racing by Bonk Motorsport, championship winners last year in the German GT4 Championship, so they will have plenty of experience around here. And it will now be Gabriel Piana aboard that machine. It was well up there in Q1, but they've decided to leave it late. So they were actually one of the last cars to leave pit lane. The pit lane is now empty.
Just going back to your point about the team, Bonk Motorsport, yes, drivers will have experience, so too the team, in terms of how to set up a car, and that is also crucial. You know, you get to the likes of Santalop, Speed Car, that are, as examples, front runners in the GT4 European Series, but they're coming to a blank sheet of paper, whereas Bonk Motorsport and other teams that will have experience from the German series starts with a little bit more data, which is going to help.
Absolutely, with such little running as well. Yes, free practice sessions yesterday were able to get a decent baseline, and they aren't going to be able to do much modification and learnings from this session because of the wet conditions. They might not necessarily have the perfect car. Was there a bonk there? Was there a noise? Maybe it was just a car bouncing over the turn one.
Bonk by noise or bonk by team. There's damage, isn't there, on the speed car Audi? A little bit of trim hanging off the side, whether that was a rattle over the curb.
I felt as though turn one cameraman heard something.
Right.
There was a little twitch, as though there should be something else going on, but there wasn't.
No yellow flags.
Nope.
87, Jim Pla is under investigation for causing a collision in Q1.
Wow.
Interesting.
I wonder if that was linked to any of our cars in random bits of tyre barrier, because both the cars we saw in the gravel were not in conventional places, were they?
Fair point. No, you're right. So Gus Bowers in a car that was in the gravel, thankfully doesn't look damaged. And the double winner from the start of the season, third in silver, got some points to gain, so they need a good weekend and they need a bad weekend for Ibanez and Juliet, don't they?
And Juliet in the pits. So whether there is an issue, whether they're changing tyres, not sure. He's at the far end of pit lane, so can't quite see it from here.
Ooh, that was a bit brutal. Being shoveled out of the way, number 24, towards the gravel, Mike David Ortman.
Well.
And it looked like one of the Caymans that got into him, and he's in the gravel. Ugh.
Oh,
this might be an interruption, you know.
Also in pit lane out of our window is the 44 machine, which has not set a time. So that was in Q1, that was Moritz Weiskirchen, and it was running, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was sixth in the end. Yeah.
But has not set a lap time and has come back into the pit, so that's a bit more worrying.
Well, yeah. I was thinking they might be just biding their time because there's not a lot of attention going on around it. It almost looks like they've had a lap, thought, OK, we'll park this for now.
Yeah, and actually Bonk has done the same thing with Piana. They've literally gone out and come straight back in again without setting a lap time. I feel as though the number 7 machine, AGS Events, has also done the same thing as well.
Now, this could all be a ploy to go late and do one run, not two. But it might unravel because Mike David Ortman is out of his car and it's in the gravel. Now, it might be that the race director is content to leave this under a yellow flag, but if the car needs moving, then there it is. Look, Mike David Ortman trudges away. It's going to be a delay. It's going to take the temperature out of the tyres. And we're going full course yellow, in fact. You can just hear in the background Steve Burns.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow now.
Goes full course yellow, so it's not a red flag, it's a full course yellow. And so the cars stay out there. But if you just time that to make this your lap, hard luck, because now you're going to have to crawl around until they can get that car out of the way. Now, Ben, you've been here for different races, so have I. You've seen the way that things can operate in 24-hour series events, for example. Where this car has come to rest is relatively close to access points, and already the DMSB crew are on the scene.
Yeah, they don't even need to get a big tractor onto the track because they've got the drag strip there that a normal car can have traction with, so they just need to literally pull it back onto the drag strip. And then, as we saw actually for the Konstantin Lachnauer car a little bit earlier on, which was in the wall, they can do the same thing there. So it should be relatively fast. The problem for the cars out on track, they've got the temperature in their tyres, they were in the rhythm, and now by running slowly, you lose the temperature in the surface of the tyre. You do get a bit of heat soak in other parts of the car, like the brakes, for instance, but it will then take a little bit of time to get the tyres back up to temperature, so we do need it to be quick. We've still got 10 minutes of the session remaining, but if it's a couple of minutes, then we lose it.
And that's another incident. That was a save rather than what Mike David Ortman had, but it damaged the Supra, the biter bit there. Toyota got into the Porsche. It's just come into the pit lane, that Supra. I think it's number 8, isn't it? The Etienne Shelley, now Corentin-Surrand car. And so you were looking at Alexander Hartvig a moment ago. That's Tim Wales' McLaren up on its jack. 7 Aston Martin, Nico Gomar to take it over. Makes a refreshing change to have a number 7, not a 007 Aston. I think we've done that joke now.
And that was the, I'm sure that was the car that had a different driver pairing.
I think you're right.
For the start of the year.
Yeah.
But they really didn't have any luck at Spa.
Well, because it's such a big grid all the time, you've got to be really good at keeping out of trouble to have a consistent season. You know, every year GT4 European Series is ever so topsy-turvy, and it always delivers great racing. I mean, it's a headline race in itself. It's always a support race with Fanatec GT, but next year there's the 6 hours of Rome at Vallelunga, which is going to be for GT4 cars ostensibly, and that should be great, not only because it's a nice long race for them, but also that they take centre stage at an event rather than being subordinate.
Lots of shrugging going on from Corentin Surin there, out of the number 8 CMR Toyota, so there is the opportunity, but the session's not over here, to go back out and do a better lap time, but various gesticulations suggest that it's that car that had that contact at turn 2 with the Porsche, and it's been such contact that he won't go back out again. Yeah,
it looked a bit smoky, didn't it, as it came in? So I think, as I said at the time, the bite a bit, and Corentin Surin is out. Now, the Mike David Ortman Aston Martin has just driven its way back into the pit lane, so just waiting for the emergency vehicle to leave the circuit, and then we should be live once more. So excellent work that by all involved. It was the right call, wasn't it, to suspend the session, if you like, under the full course yellow, rather than have to stop and lose all the time. You can let it continue.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Green flag, green flag.
That was the green flag count. So now you just pick up the pace and you're back in the session. So had that been a red flag, you would have wasted at least 10 minutes getting cars in, recovering a car, restarting.
And also, you're in a qualifying session, so the timer would have had to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
And knowing that we're half an hour delayed already, well, we're not really, actually, because this session is delayed, but they moved the lunch break. So actually, all the timetable moving forward at the moment should stay the same as it was previously published.
Except you and I have missed lunch, but you know,
yes.
First world problems.
And I missed breakfast.
And you missed breakfast, yeah, breakfast was good. Right, so we are back under green flag, as you say. I was looking also for number 22 Porsche, the Andreas Meyer Vincent Andronica car. I don't think that was returned to the team, so it's not been able to go back out. Alexander Weintraub in his NM Racing Team Mercedes, the sister car to Ibañez and Julier's entry, goes through. Even though it's an NM Racing Team car, it's sort of trying to be Raffaele Marciello, Jules Gounon, Danny Juncadeo with the number, isn't it, as 88 out of GT3, out of Fanatec GT. So that car presses on. Erwin Bastar is the fastest, so it's been a pretty good brace of sessions in a way for Audi, because you've got Audis topping the times currently in both. Wilfried Casalbon has yet to do a time. Gabriele Impiana yet to do a time as well, as Ben's been saying, but the Bonk Motorsports BMW is back on track. We've got a very, very slow Allied Racing Porsche in the stadium, but I think that again is to try and get clear track space. So now it's getting a bit more pressured, this. 6.5 minutes of the session still to go.
Good news for the Team Spirit Racing 18 car. We saw Hendrik Pedersen not able to set a dry weather lap time in the first session, but they are on the board and in 26th position right now. So whatever the malady was with that car, it's fixed for Lundstras to go out and take part in Q2. But as you say, the cars that stopped out on circuit, the 55 Alpine and the 22 Porsche, both didn't get back to the team to then go back out with their second driver. So we're down to 41 cars in this session.
As you look at Paolo Meloni with his BMW that presses on and bounces over the curb, as they all do. So last time around, we had Robert Haub going up to third in the times, 147.553. Robert Haub, the German driver in the Mercedes AMG that he shares with Theo Nue. Meloni's about to improve, I reckon, up to 13th in the BMW. That's an AM-class car, but he's the quicker of the two alongside Max Tresoldi, so going well. 5 minutes on the clock as the press stream through. Robert Consani goes second. That's the car that he shares with Benjamin Lariche, and it's just gone second. It's an Audi 1-2 now.
We're about in the same region as the fastest lap time in the first session, which was a 47.1. You would expect this session to be faster from the track developing. And of course, we do have plenty of silver drivers in this session as well for those that are participating in the Silver Cup. And Bastard there. The first man out onto circuit at the start of the session has been in the pits, has got perhaps a new set of boots, and is now making the work. But with tyres and brakes getting back up to temperature, expect the times to tumble once more. And we've got plenty of purple out on circuit.
Whoa. Well, Owen Bastard bounces back onto the circuit. That could have been a whole lot worse. He was a lucky Owen there, getting away with that. But it's ruined the lap, hasn't it?
Absolutely. That's a lot slower to go around that way. That's near the rallycross track. I've seen plenty of people dip a wheel into that gravel and then spear off to the other side of the circuit. But it's so dirty there. You can see Constantine with exactly the same issue. Just a little bit wide turn in, and you're going onto that oil. Oh, blimey.
BMW on fire. It's hit the tar stack. The driver's out of the car, as you can see. He's put oil down, I think, and there's another car arriving ever so quickly. So red flag. Session is stopped with 3 3/4 minutes to go. This might be the end of that session, actually. There's a Mercedes coming down the pit lane with damage. Ben, see if you can identify that. But the BMW has gone off the road, hit the tyres, driver out of the car, and it has caught fire. The extinguisher is there. The driver is safely out of the car. It's no concern. The Mercedes that's come down the pit lane with its damage has hidden its number behind the barriers.
61.
61. That's got a punctured tyre. But I just wonder whether the Mercedes and the BM got together.
So that's the Ricci car.
Yeah, which is the AM leader in the championship. And of the BMWs...
the BMW...
It's one of the 2 Borosan cars. Session will not be resumed, confirmation, incidentally. But it's taking a bit to put the fire out here.
And it would explain why we saw those cars going off at the turn previous to it. A lot of cars finding themselves a little bit wide coming into the stadium section, and presumably either fuel or oil down at that point, which has come out of this car. He's then spun on his own, and there is the driver just behind the tyre barrier there. He's spun on his own oil or fuel, and then when it's come to rest, it's depositing the rest of it into that gravel trap.
Yeah, I mean, we'd seen the driver running away. I'm trying to work out whether it's 11 or 12. I think it's 11 of the 2 Borosan Automotive cars, because the other one is on its way back to the pit lane. So who would have been driving 11? Jason Tahinci. There's the damage to the Ricci Mercedes. You can see the broken wheel rim.
Gosh.
That's a big hit, isn't it? And so Jason Tahinci, the driver, off the road, but whether he was tapped into that, whether he spun on his own oil, we as yet know not. So high drama to round out qualifying. Won't be resumed, the session.
No coloured paint on that car to suggest kind of car-to-car damage, but as you say, the rim is quite badly damaged. It's obviously broken the suspension. Here we go then.
There's the contact. Wow. And off spins 11. Bang. And then as the fuel comes out, that's a surprise that the fuel would have... Anyway.
Very.
Yeah. But it was side to side, so yeah, you're right. There's not a hint of blue paint.
No, it
really
wheel to wheel, wheel to wheel.
Yeah.
Very, very unlucky. And therefore, any people running wide at the previous turn has nothing to do with any oil or fuel spill.
No. But it's been the blaze is out, but it took more than one extinguisher bottle, I think, to do that. So heavy damage to the Mercedes. Right, so we better just recap who did what to which and to whom. And so it is Owen Bastard who is the fastest, as the session is brought to a premature halt from Robert Consani. So it's an Audi 1-2, and we didn't mention this, but Will Tregertha with the Aston Martin, welcome back to GT4 racing. Winner in these cars, or this championship in the HHC Ginetta days. He's third ahead of Loic Villiger, and then Fabien Michel, Robert Haug sixth. Romain Monti seventh from Gus Bowes, then Kenny Heremans, and Enzo Juliet 10th. Ivan Jacoma up to 11th ahead of Loris Kabiru, Akil Rabindra, Tim Whale, and Alexei Solokotsev. 16th fastest was Ruben Del Sart ahead of Marnik Batrin, new this weekend. Jakob Noll ahead of Will Burns in the sister BMW, and Jean-Laurent Navarro 20th fastest. Jason Tahinci 25th before his dramas. Alexander Hartwig didn't really get a proper lap in. He was 26th, and 29th only Jean-Luc Bobelic, with Mauro Ricci's damaged Mercedes being 30th. Mike David Ortman 36th before he got turfed off the road. And so a quick look back at the best bits of an interesting session for both parts, but Owen Bastard, number 14, Santa-Lock Audi, being able to go out early. This was the demise of Mike David Ortman. Still trying to identify the Cayman that got involved. It might have been 37, the Laboda car, or it could have been 718 of Giacomo himself. Ivan Giacomo himself. This was the damage to Corentin Surin after that incident. You just saw at turn 2, punctured tyre, damage to the front, and this was how the session ended, with contact between Mercedes and BMW and a red flag. Right, join us for race 1 coming up later on in the afternoon. It'll be as lively as qualifying, that's for sure, but for now, from Ben Constantouris and David Addison, it's goodbye.